and welcome to our panel discussion, Making Space, Exhibition Design with Kathmandu Triennale. So before I get started on introducing all three of our wonderful speakers, I wanted to first of all give you a little introduction to those who don't know what ASAP is. We are a UK-based arts education and development non-for-profit. We support initiatives to widen and deepen the engagement with modern and contemporary visual arts from South Asia and its diaspora. ASAP works with institutions and individuals supporting selected research projects, publications, exhibitions, and
Recording in progress.
We offer annual grants and facilitate access to wider knowledge networks in collaboration with expertise across the nations of Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and its diaspora. No particular order, Veerangana just happens to be to my right on the screen. So to first start off to introduce Veerangana, who we've had on our panel talks before. Welcome back. Veeranganakumari Solanki is an independent curator and writer based in India. She is interested in the way interdisciplinary forms and creative practices merge to create dialogues in public and private spaces that make convergence of images across disciplines. Further, her research and practice consider how historical and contemporary thought inform exhibition making and artistic practices. Veerangana was the 2019 Brooks International Research Fellow at Tate Modern and a resident at Delfina Foundation. Currently, she is the Program Director at Space Studio Baroda, a core team member of Art Chain India, and teaches a curatorial practice MFA course at Kathmandu University, and is a visual arts curator for the Serendipity Arts Festival 2023. Next on my screen, Shreeti, welcome to Art Murmur. Shreeti Prajapati is a visual artist from Kathmandu. Her interest in art grew while journaling the correlation of encountered objects visually through pen and ink drawings. This slowly transitioned in understanding the poetics of space and people. In 2018, her BFA final year artwork themed around the intimacy of the everyday objects and surroundings that she encountered in her daily life. In a group exhibition in 2020, Line of Thought, her work further explored the idea of human interaction with spaces and objects in relation to faith, hope, and rituals. In 2021 to 2022, she worked as an artwork storage and handling manager for Kathmandu Triennale 2077. Currently, she's been working as an exhibition design lead, creating visual experiences for various exhibitions, and she is also a member of the creative collective Ankura Atelier. Last but by no means least, Dipak, welcome to Art Murmur. Dipak Lama is a visual artist and founder of Arka Kalaga, a center for art and design based in Kathmandu. His art practice includes painting, large-scale sculptures, and installations, exploring and finding balance within immense forms and shapes of metals and other materials. He graduated from Kathmandu's University's Department of Art and Design in 2018. He received a special award in contemporary sculpture during the National Exhibition in 2019, organized by the Nepal Academy of Fine Arts. He has actively participated in numerous exhibitions, workshops, projects, art festivals, and events. He also works as a freelancer in production, mentoring, and advising for projects related to the art field, including for events such as Kathmandu Triennale and Photo Kathmandu for their editions in 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2023. He's also been involved in the retrospective of Ragini Upadhyay Grela, in addition to numerous other contemporary art exhibitions, and he is currently working on production for Nepal Architecture Archive's permanent exhibition at the Taragal Museum. So before I get into questions with all three wonderful speakers, I wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping. So this session will take place for around an hour with time for questions after. Please stay on mute during the duration of the session. Please put your questions in the chat, and we will be able to read them, or I will read them out. And this session will be recorded and put on our website in the next few months. Finally, please note that this session will end abruptly once everyone has finished talking. So thank you. And welcome, Veerangana, Dipak, and Shreeti. So I want to start with you, Veerangana. I'll give a little bit of background. Veerangana, Dipak, and Shreeti were all involved in our first round of funding for the ASAP grant. And we were able to facilitate a research grant with the Kathmandu Triennale. And I wanted you to talk through what the background behind this research grant was, and I know you worked on these amazing workshops about exhibition design. How did they become specific to the Triennale?
Thanks, Mala, and thank you, Isat, first for hosting us this evening, but also for the support, thanks to which we could have this workshop over 3 weeks, which I think contributed to a lot of the team building and the team that eventually installed the Triennale. But just to give a bit of the background of what you mentioned to how these workshops came about, I think the first time I worked on a workshop in Kathmandu was in 2015. Which is where we were still working on, I think, Photo Kathmandu. That was the first year that it took place. And a lot of the curators who now run their own spaces, who have their own festivals, we were all in conversation then. So in a way, it's grown from that. But obviously, over the years, it's always been about layering on and learning from participants, but also building on what has been required and letting go of things that have been implemented and you see as change. And in 2017, along with Shirari, I was part of the Kathmandu Triennale Symposium, which is when I did see a lot of teams and resources that were coming in from the outside, which is when Shirari and I started talking about the possibility of doing something that would be about resource building within Nepal itself. And that's where I think our initial conversations began. That was in 2019 when the current Triennale team, the last Triennale team was being formed at that time. When Shirari, Noor, and Nantara and I were talking about how we could start building a workshop that would create these teams that would eventually grow into not having to get people from the outside, but really have people integrate a structure that would grow within Nepal itself, and it would mean them then going out to other places. So it was really this idea of knowledge exchange and learning from each other. And then as things progressed, the workshop design became more specific to the Triennale because we realized that there wasn't that much time to expand it. But I feel what's happened is that though the team was quite large and it became very specific, there's a lot that's been taken away. Like you mentioned with Shreeti and Dipak working on so many other exhibitions, similarly with other team members as well. So that's how I feel there were takeaways from the workshop towards other spaces.
And so how did the workshops themselves contribute to knowledge building and working on exhibition designs and working with large teams? And how did you format and design these workshops? It would be really great for you to talk through how you did that.
So I think to start with, we had an open call. So it was really about, again, we're very specific to having people from within Nepal being a part of the workshop and those who could give their 3 weeks first to just the process of what we were going to discuss through it. I'll take you through the structure. But we came down to about 17 participants who were part of this 3-week workshop, and based on how they responded to certain exercises that we did, to certain exhibition design elements that we discussed, they also eventually went on to become team leaders or the venue coordinators, and then worked very closely with the curatorial team and also with the artists. So it expanded from there. And then say, for instance, with Dipak, Dipak and Suresh were handling all of the production. And Shreeti then came on to handle the condition reports and the storage, which often doesn't get addressed. But all of these sort of evolved through the workshop itself. And it was really about learning about each other's strengths and using those to then support each other. So it was a network. It wasn't just saying, okay, one person handles everything, even though at different points we were relying on various people. So I think those were, and again, like I said, that when it comes to knowledge building and sharing, it's how now when I go back, and even when I went back for some of the install bit of it, what was really happening was that everybody who was a part of this workshop was like, oh, we need to be here. We need to do this. This is what we need to do. So it wasn't about what started off as saying, okay, these are the exercises, this is what the workshop is about, turned into, you need to be there now. Or it was really about how the tables turn, and that was so heartening because it wasn't at the end of it about how one person gave or one person took, but it was again about this collaboration and letting go of how this was going to be um, possible to work with different festivals and exhibitions, like with, say, for instance, Deepak work. And Deepak and Shreeti, I think, both worked on Ragini Upadhyay's exhibition. So also how different people from the team have come together for different shows over time. I think similarly, even with the Lumbini Museum, there have been people from the team who've been working on that. And it's great to just see how those things have taken off in other directions. In terms of the format and the design of the workshop, I'll just share my screen. To take you through some of the structures of how we did that. I mean, it's more technical. Sorry. So this was more during the orientation program. The workshops were 6 workshops, and we had 3 debriefings. So at the end of each week, we'd have a debriefing based on which we discuss what were the difficulties that the team had, or how we were going to take that forward. And week 1 and 2 were more of just understanding exhibition design, how teamwork and coordination worked. And there was some reading material, but also understanding what it meant to work with artists, what it meant to work with the curatorial team. Because eventually everybody who was a part of this workshop worked with the curatorial team to realize the installation of the exhibitions, and they handle that with the team itself. And we looked at a few case studies of exhibitions that I'd worked on, but also, so I could speak through the difficulties or the challenges that had taken place, but also through just looking at other spaces and understanding with response, and they're fairly interactive, these ones, of what they felt was lacking, of what could be added. And the third week was where Shilasha and Hitman had a few sessions with the team to then introduce the venues. And we then sort of handled this entire process. Then this was where the team building took place, and each of them, based on the venues that they were assigned, started understanding the artists, started being more responsive in terms of the areas that they felt they were strong with or what they responded to. So it was then honing in those skills to be able to realize what the install team could be. And at the end of it really was this team effort too. So yeah, these were, I think, and this is just an outline of post the workshop, how we worked with the timeline from them handing over the roles and responsibilities of being in the workshop and a bit of things to the COP need to do, to them then having smaller teams under them and the volunteers. So that's how the process was more like a complete handover in some sense. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And it's really helpful to understand the modules, and I think it'll be really interesting for our audience to see kind of Deepak and Shreeti talk through the concretization of these examples of what they took from these workshops. So I think I'd love to start with Deepak. So you were the co-lead for the production of the Triennale, and so you were team leader. How did you view the team when they first started, and what was it like working with the team overall?
Hi, hello, and yeah, I think mostly the team was from the art field and art background, and some of them are from different different creative fields like sounds, architecture, curator, and management. And in the team, some of them were students, artists, designer, and recent graduates like me, like me. And because of different fields, it was quite easy to spread the team, build the team, yeah, and their practice and experience. So the entire team was young, learners, and hardworking, and they were open to discussion, hearing, and loving, and responsible to each other. There was no high and low key between team, yeah, and it is I think it is not necessary to work or not, but they comfortably share their ideas and viewpoints, and the good thing is acceptance. So that's the main spirit of the team, I think.
Amazing. And I think that sense of collaboration and emotional connection comes through even from the conversations we've had as well. And you all, unlike Shreeti, you joined the workshops from the beginning. So you were part of these workshops the whole time. What happened during it for you? How did you learn from it? How did you see the difference within the team as they continued to learn while they were working?
During the workshop, we were introducing like exhibition design, so and its practice, and together we also talked and learn about the curatorial practice, art and exhibition production, and same as the art management. So they were surprised that they were from different fields, and uh, uh, and they can't find it on their academic course. So they are surprised, yeah, and also feel good knowing about learning yearly for me. And they were very easy to question and answer about their job and why we were doing this exercise and what it comes from. And after the group division, they're trying to solve their own experience and perspectives, and then started their own math science and possibilities on practice. So it was also a surprise and challenge for me to work with a huge team. We went to the venue after workshop, and we had to face many obstacles and problems like museum protocols, yeah, and we couldn't put nails in in wall, and we can't damage the walls. We have to create fake walls at venues, all the venues, and we have to secure with we never know that what kind of problem is we facing, that we never know that we have to face jackals like rain and like monkey, like pigeon, yeah. uh, so yeah um, uh, at NSE, that we have to manage the natural light and sound ventilation, and we had to think about the public flow every venue because of COVID. Yeah,
Mhm.
and these are the problems that problem comes in our practice. So this is the part of uh, Janakpur woman. This is the mural of mud. So then we have to fix the mud in the wall. So we create the bamboos, like um, uh, this horizontal ground, and we put on the wall. Yeah, these are I said before that there is many protocols in um, museum. So we have to fix the wall by without nailings, without touching the wall. So we fix in like give the pack. Yeah. So we face the building was so you know old, so we have to face like there's water leaking problem. So we put on a raincoat. Mm, yeah. So yeah, I said before that jackals, and we have to secure with jackals. So we make the wall for avoid the jackals. Yeah, these are we are practicing. And another, I think this the part of NAC. So there is like they're disturbing the natural light. So we have to put frosted and what frosted paper and like that. So we
Mm.
how to make the light off from to the venue. So yeah.
It's amazing. It feels like all these things we're learning by doing, but also all these unexpected, like a jackal. Who thinks in an art exhibition you have to try and protect things from a jackal or the leak of a water and the raincoats? It just gives such a like idea about the spirit and energy of all of you working together, being like, oh no, there's a jackal, we've got to go protect the artwork from that, or I think the problem solving aspect really comes across. Thank you, Deepak, so much. That's really, really helpful to give us an idea of how you worked as the team. I'm going to move to Shreeti now. Shreeti, you were working as the art storage and handling manager for the Triennale. What were your first thoughts when you were kind of given this job, and how did your confidence grow when you worked within the team?
Thank you, Mala. So I think the condition report and art handling thing came out pretty late during planning, and we actually started Tuti. There was one more team member, Tuti, and I was in this workshop conducted by V at that time. So I think that also helped us breaking the ice, like what sort of materials artworks were coming, and then also getting to know the terms, like what sort of practice that we had to have in order to conduct the condition reports also. And then when the artwork started coming, I think at first it was pretty overwhelming for us because we didn't have idea like what was the size of the artworks, how many artworks was coming. So when the boxes started coming at the venue, the Maligaon storage space, because it was like pretty small space we had, it was quite overwhelming at first. Also to like peel off the works, we had to be really careful. What if we, in the process of doing the condition reports, we damaged the work? So we had to take quite precautions at first, being nervous how to peel off the works. And then, so we did our first condition reports with the works that we had from the Nepali artist and few of the artworks from the foreign artist as well. And then I think that also helped us build our confidence doing the condition reports. This was one of the artists, Joy de Broeja. We had his works. Also, his works were quite familiar for us. The mediums were quite familiar. So it was easy for us to know the terms and also the medium and the measurements that we had to do. It was not strange for us, like, when starting. So it also gave us confidence to move on and carry on with other artworks as well. Yeah.
And I know V shared a condition report template which you made, and I don't know if it's helpful for our audience, if there's anyone in the audience who wants to learn how to condition report. It might be helpful you to go through it together a little bit and explain it.
So I think at first, also while doing condition reports, we had to look at the artworks very objectively. Like what is the content of the artwork didn't matter for us. Like what mattered for us was the medium, what was the size of the artwork, like when was it made, like are there any damages, are there frames or not, everything mattered like objectively only for us. But getting to know the works through condition reports, we also got to check the backgrounds of like how these artworks were made. So it was also kind of helpful for us to grow as an artist also to see these artworks. I think we can add on this one because
I think this condition reports came up a bit later at the end of the workshops, because this was something that in the past, it's, the works came in, we unpacked them and packed them back. And over here, it was also where the work had been shown in Hong Kong, a lot of it, and it was also going to travel later to Berlin. And we realized that a lot of these crates had to be kept as they were. There was so much that hadn't been discussed in terms of the yacht handling. So though I know this is a fairly comprehensive condition report, can have so many more details, but this was really where the works were coming in, but what was the easiest way we could document them coming in and leaving, given, like Shreeti mentioned, that the storage was suddenly something that was made up to have the works. And then I remember going in and Shreeti and Suti were just surrounded by crates and anything that was happening was around, it was like they were the bosses at that time. Anything you wanted to take in or take out of there, it was with their permission and how you took that out. But it was also because they were so thorough with keeping track of everything that I think at the end of it too, when everything was being uninstalled, it was easier as a process because everything had been documented so well at the beginning by them. And similarly, the condition report, this is fairly simple, but really what we needed to make sure things came in one way and left in another way. We're obviously working on larger exhibitions or museums that need to be way more detailed templates for that.
Yeah. And I think you both spoke about this a bit, but there wasn't really this kind of protocol in place before. This is something that you both brought in, well, you brought into the Triennale, because how many works did you have? It was...
We had 200 plus works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had to put these in, and I didn't realize, I mean, you were moving Savvy was the next stop.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was like really necessary for us to keep track of everything, like because the artworks were coming in batches, different batches, and then we had to dispatch these works to venues also in batches. We couldn't like send them all together, so we need to keep details of everything. Like even if the if one artist is sending 5 works which were to display it at one venue, we had to keep track of each work as separate item, right? We couldn't like keep it as one complete work. So that was also sort of challenging, looking at the limited space we had. And also to record these images, these artworks, we had to photograph them, take every measurements, be accurate with it, and also have to tally with the previous condition reports, you know, to see if like it is matching or not. And then constantly changing the space because it was so limited. And then we had to take out the artworks, keep the artworks in the storage space, and then, you know, take the boxes out and keep like the boxes in the outdoor storage space. So we had to be careful at like different times, depending upon which artwork was coming. And when the like space was limited, we had to take these artworks to the venues and do our condition reports in the venues only. So we had to face these problems and also had that conscious mind to solve them at the venue only, right? At that time, because we didn't know what sort of problems was coming at that time. So it was really helpful with the team being so conscious and helpful at all times. We were doing condition, like this condition report we were doing at like 11 or 12 at midnight. Yeah, so yeah. Having a helpful team was really you know, resourceful for us at that time. Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think I'm sure we'll come back to examples from the Triennale, but obviously it happened a while ago. So having now gone through the Triennale and the workshops, from Lee, what are the most important things you think you learned and that you now carry forward into the work that I listed out that you work on now? Dipak, do you want to start now?
I think Shreeti, you start
Okay,
first.
Shreeti, start.
Okay. Like I think with the Triennale, you know, starting with looking at the works, because while I was practicing as just an artist, when we go to exhibition, we see the works framed, we see the final artworks only. But when with Triennale and working as the artwork handling manager over there, I got to experience the works firsthand without the frames, you know, to feel the works fresh, smell them, you know, touch the fabrics, and know like how it behaves in certain ways. So it helped me to understand the artworks more. And also getting involved during the installation programs, and then also seeing the how the exhibition designs were done during Kathmandu Triennale. It also gave me an idea how these visual narrations and designing the experiences really matters for the audiences. It's not just looking at one work, it's also looking at how an audiences sees and experience these works in different times, in different moods, and in different environments. So it was really helpful for me, especially to know that, you know, how exhibition design and curation matters and how it can change the visual narratives for like different audiences. So like right now, even Dipak and I, we both were involved with JWDC exhibition and Ragini Upadhyay's retrospective. So I was doing the exhibition designs and Dipak Dai was doing productions. We built this sort of team to also understand what our efforts and what our, how we work collaboratively. And while doing Janakpur Women's Development Center's exhibition, I was involved during the curation time as well. So I was participating in the workshops as well. So I got to know how these artists work, to see where they work, how they form the ideas. And then seeing that, it also helped me to bring these mediums in exhibition design. So I was using the textiles they were painting on as a backdrop. Also bringing the context they were doing that, right? And also using the motifs they were painting on their papers on the walls, and talking with them what those motifs meant for them. It was really, it helped me to form those ideas and form those exhibition designs around their ideas. So I think it became really, it helped me to build my confidence in knowing the artists and their works. Yeah.
Deepak, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think most of them city shade. Yeah, for me, like, I can imagine that how different how different looks the appearance and form come after applying design. Yeah, so space through curator, design and production practice, entire creative team. So I'm trying to figure out the meeting point of artists, curators, and vendors practices. So I'm trying to figure out the meeting point of the idea and skills and its development and and quality through healthy expenses. So yeah, and every time it doesn't work, but sometimes it works. So to make an easy journey, so first I figure out the timeline of exhibition events, right? And which is major element that how are we going to start on, yeah, how we start, and because it determines the number of vendors and working day and night duty, yeah. And after that, another artist number of works, so we determine. So and and I look after venue's protocol also, the area of venue and its fabrication. And yeah, I look after the budget, which plays the big role in how it's work in quality, in quantity, and its requirements of human resource and vendors. So yeah, also we have to think about that in Nepal we have limited materials, yeah, and limited source tools for fabrication. So that we have to figure out by using an available and local materials, yeah, and we have to create own ways and mechanism to make event and exhibition possible. Because I think during the Kathmandu Triennale, we have to brought magnet and masking tape and paper from Hong Kong.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so that's the thing that the textile and paper work may it damage the work. So we brought the magnet and that kind of things. Yeah, I think I apply this kind of yeah, things in.
No, it's funny, the magnets. So I didn't even realize you had to get them from elsewhere. That's amazing. You had to get all of that but it's really, I mean, it goes back to Shreeti's point about understanding all these, every single aspect about the artwork and that you do from the condition report, but just about protecting it in the exhibition space as well.
Right.
And I mean, Shreeti briefly mentioned it, but maybe one of you can talk through an exhibition you've worked on since. So what are the learning, like the development of these skills that you've had from Kathmandu Triennale? What's memorable about working on an exhibition you've done since? What any big dramas or exciting challenges? I don't know who wants to go. Shruti, maybe? Or?
I think from during Kathmandu Triennale, personally, I think it was more of the physical challenges that we had. Like Dipak said, we had to face challenges of the availability of materials that were necessary. So we had to also think the alternative mediums, alternative ideas that were available here. And how it can be adjusted with the artworks. I remember there was a long, like 90-meter plus long work that was done on wooden bar. So while doing condition report, we didn't have that enough space to measure that close, right? And we were having that challenge of where to, lay that out and then measure it. And also, while hanging it, I know because it was displayed at Nepal Art Council, and then they had this challenge of, who will hang this work, and Dipak and team had to get the electricians that were working over there because they are used to height, and so they helped the whole team to hang the artwork. So like we didn't know what sort of challenges we will be facing, right? So we had to deal and have the people from different fields who had the idea of dealing with like all the challenges also, and then that also helped us to navigate through the problems that we were having at that time. I think in sorry, I sort of lost the track, but yeah, in Kathmandu Triennale, I think even though we had these problems and these challenges, we could reach out to the curators at any time for asking the solutions. We can reach out to our team leaders that were present at different venues, and they had the solutions, for like these small problems or like any problems. And because the team had like dynamic set of members that were working as an artist, as photographers. There were team members who were architects and also working with multimedias. It helped us to interacting with them. It helped us to know like how their perspective on solving the challenges as well. So I think it helped us to grow collectively. And sir, Dipak, do you want to add on this?
Well, I think you said most of them. Yeah, same thing. I don't have like concrete answer, but yeah, I'm from outside the valley, so I have some experience of vendoring like carpentry, engineering workshop, and mechanism, machinery work and workshop. Yeah. So, and after joining the fine arts, so I used to put a skill in my works. And because of good knowledge of materials, experience, it makes easy to find out the costing and process and value of any kind of object and medium. So I want to, say that, I mean to say that design production and field, we never know which time, as Shruti said, we never know that what kind of people we are going to, talk and know which time and when we are going to have to work with multiple professional people like multimedia engineer. Yeah. So yeah, the exhibition is designed what makes different from fabrication and what it makes aesthetically and visually balanced and eye pleasing and different way through color, composition, and installation. So yeah, we have to sure about easy way and shortcut, and think about also the quality and value of event and exhibition through production, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, you're both artists, so you come to exhibition design and production in one way, and V is a curator, but she knows a lot about exhibition design as well. Maybe we start with V. What advice would you give to someone who wants to work in this field, and what skills do they need and how can they develop them?
So I think in terms of advice, a lot of sometimes what we arrive at is expecting for things to be ready-made or done, which I think happens more in white group spaces. But it's also where one is learning through knowledge exchange in some ways. So it's also about being open to knowing that you don't know everything. But like, say, for instance, what Deepak mentioned, that the skills he already had and with the materials and all of that, it just made sense for him to be leading production with Suresh. I mean, there were times when I remember Sharari mentioning, oh, an extension board, and Deepak was like, oh, I can just make that myself. So within seconds, we had like these massive extension boards, which he needed. So I think it's also where, depending, and again, all of us come from different backgrounds. We all have something that we bring with us in terms of what we may consider our skills. So it's about using that, but as a collaboration in some form. So with the team, what happened is, I mean, say, for instance, Deepak and Suresh with production, Shreeti was handling the condition reports with Sufi, but then there was Aman, I remember, who was also working on photography, who ended up documenting a lot of things. Nishchal, who handled a lot of the sound, and Tech is also sound designer. So it's, how all of their backgrounds came into handling things, and it was also tapping into that. So it's not that, I mean, of course, it helps to be able to add and layer things on, but also using your skill and recognizing that to then take that forward is definitely quite helpful. Yeah, and patience, because I think there's also a lot of physical work and patience that we need with that, and tons of problem solving with a calmer mind. Because I think when we panic at points, it was okay about just stepping back and saying, how do we just get through this together? And it did help, like both Deepak and Shreeti mentioned, to be able to think through things as a team, which is something that we practiced during the workshop, because they were during week 2, the entire group was divided into smaller teams, and there were these interactive exercises where, okay, these are the challenges, think about this in a space, which up until then it was, oh, these are the things that we do, this is how the examples of how we problem solve. But when it came to just doing that, everybody was back at the table with, how do we think through this? And then it was just thinking through it together, which I think a lot of that got carried forward into the implementation when they were installing with the curators as well.
Thank you. Do you two have any advice from having learned it recently or been working in it for a few years?
I think the most helpful thing, like in every work that we do, is an aptitude to learn, and then also not shying away to ask help from the people that know, that has experience to work on these things. So because when at the initial phase of doing the condition reports, like we faced this huge problem of not knowing how to open one carton box because all the grips of the screws were gone. So we didn't know how to open it. We didn't have option to damage that, right? So even though like I was calling up Shari and taking her advice, nothing was working. So eventually we had to call Dipak and then ask his advice how we could open it, because he had those technical skills. So also knowing like who to ask to help is also it also becomes really helpful to solving these problems that comes, like we didn't know we would face these sort of problems also. And also like if we are from art college or from any colleges, the skills and the lessons that we learn comes handy at like some point of time, because doing like the condition reports, we had already done some archiving with Roshan Mishra from Paragon Museum. So that really helped us to know, how to treat an artwork, like to see the works objectively, what we need to know about it. So it really came handy when we were doing condition reports. So also that really helps, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Deepak, any final bits of advice? You're on mute.
I think how my skill and skill is developing at the when I was like a student. I'm probably doing like volunteering, yeah, volunteering for the different events, and I used to working what kind of materials and tools and used in events and venues. And after graduation, I have been like working on this kind of event physically, which makes personal growth and develop my self confidence in this field. So I think it comes again same that to make it a good experience by visiting, exploring the events and exhibition physically. Yeah. So how the exhibition is designed, what makes different from the fabrication. Yeah, I think same question and answer is coming. Yeah, yeah, and yes, to become a professional in exhibition design, I think as in production and as in design, we have to sure about uh, sure about and have to know the importance and values of everything, art, practice, yeah, and vendors, yeah, and what are at the same time, and we have to think about what are we doing, how are you doing, and why are you doing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And just in line with what Deepak was saying, I also wanted to add, and this is something which I feel Deepak and everyone, I mean, they brought that in really a lot, is how important it is to use local materials as far as possible. Because given budgets and given how, I mean, of course, there were the magnets and paper and masking tape, which had to be brought in because that just wasn't available. But as far as possible, how flexible one can be with working with local materials, so that it's also something that can carry forward for future editions. And that's something where the team who's working with the people who are managing these resources be able to learn for future events and how that grows.
Great. Thank you. I have another question, but I think I'll open up the floor to see if anybody wants to ask a question. And if nobody wants to ask a question, I will ask my question. So if you have a question, please put your question in the chat. Please do not turn your audio on, because otherwise there's lots of interference. While we're waiting, I will still ask my question. First, for Shreeti and Lee and Deepak, you can also answer it. How do you look at exhibitions that you visit differently now you work in exhibition design?
I think visiting an exhibition right now, it subconsciously comes to see and, to go and look at the details, how it has been exhibited. There's always the part to look at the works and then, have a conversation with the artist if they are present over there, to know their idea. Because before the Triennale, I really hesitated, to go and ask artists about their work process. But then after that, I think it also encouraged me to go and approach the artist to know their processes and what their vision is during the exhibition, and also like their idea behind the exhibition design, how they're exhibiting their works. And also it comes in my mind, like, what if I was doing the design, how would I approach it? So it comes in that way as well. Yeah.
Deepak, do you want to go next? How do you look at an exhibition differently now since working in exhibition design? Oh. Hello. Deepak, sorry, did you hear me?
So sorry. Hello.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was just asking if you have any thoughts on how you look at an exhibition, having worked in exhibition design, because obviously Shruti looks differently because she's had the experience. How do you look at an exhibition that you go to when you're not working?
I think as Siti said, so when I went to exhibition and I start looking not works like behind the walls, behind the scenes, yeah, and how they putting the artworks in the wall, and their process. I look that kind of, yeah, visual balance. Yeah, my minds are goes on that kind of thing. So yeah, I think.
I think that's so true. I think, I mean, we can go next as well, but I think whenever we
No,
go to
but
an exhibition, you're looking at the side, you're like, how did they put that on the wall? But sorry, V.
no, I agree. That's exactly what I was gonna just add to, because it's more, I think as you start thinking through just putting up works, there was an exhibition in Bombay, which just ended, which had these large, the Murmur works with the Chanakya school. And I remember looking at the partition and saw this paint gauze on that, thinking, oh, what was this? And then I got in touch with somebody who helped with the production, said, oh, that just helps dry the paint fast, so you don't have to wait for really long. And I was talking to somebody who works with a lot of street art, and they said, "Oh, we use that all the time because you don't have time for paint to dry." So it's also how you're constantly learning, but it's by looking very closely at these smaller details that I think as a viewer you can easily miss. It's only when you are interested in these points that you start picking them up to be able to use them for future exhibitions and ideas. Yeah.
Thank you. No, we have a question in the chat from Pramodha, and it's, how important is using sustainable materials during design and production, especially for a triennale that can sometimes feel temporary? Who wants to answer that?
Is this question for me?
Go for it.
Like before I said, we have like limited materials and things in Nepal. So let's see, while we are doing the mural of Janakpur woman, so we are using our local materials like bamboos, and yeah, and we brought the materials from Janakpur, that side of Tarai, and we brought the bhusas. That's mean the, I think, what's that said in English? I don't know. That bhusas to connect the mud, that we bring from Tarai region.
The
So we
husk,
use that kind of.
I think. Is it the husk? Yeah.
Yeah, husk and
Yeah,
mud we had to bring from Tarayo for that.
yeah. So we are using and implement local materials like that. So, and the like for the Uriel production, so we use the like local material like seeds of oil, mustard oil. Yeah, so we are using in same Sunta's installation that we are using like the beer seeds of local material. So yeah.
I think in like region like Nepal, we don't even have option to opt for a high techs. We had to have these local materials, work with it, because as Dipak mentioned, all these materials, because we couldn't find it in Kathmandu, we had to bring it from Janakpur and like coconut, the mustard seeds. It is also necessary to understand what artwork demands, and to see that like these artworks demanded those materials. We had to have these options where we can get it, like the sustainable materials, how is it possible to bring them? So we had to look at those aspects also.
Dee, do you want to add anything? Or I think both Deepak and Shruti have covered it
I
very
think
well.
Deepak and Shreeti covered most of it, because they were the ones who were really working with that. And I think a lot of what got used, I mean, I think you all also recycled some of the previous pedestals that the Triennale had. And given that there's not tons of storage, there were things that we used, but also recycled quite a bit.
Yeah, and it was not
Even
just
with the
during
tech,
the
I think.
yeah. So the projectors and projectors and multimedias, like we had to reuse the ones that has been used in previous triennales, and not just the technological or aspects during exhibitions. While we were returning the artworks also, we tried to minimize the use of plastics because so many plastics was used during the wrappings and packaging. So we tried to keep those packaging materials, tried to reuse them, because while we were unwrapping the materials, we knew that these plastics will be wasted if we don't take the tapes carefully. So we tried to take out the tapes carefully, tried to store them, and then while sending it in the venue, we use the same plastics. And if it was reusable, we tried to reuse those same plastics while sending it back. So I think we had to be mindful in that sense also.
Great, thank you. I think we don't have any other questions. So all that is left for me to say is thank you so much to everyone for joining, and most importantly to Veerangana, Dipak and Shreeti for being such brilliant speakers and giving their experience. And I've learned so much about exhibition design and all these different materials I didn't know about myself too. So if you have in the audience anyone who has missed this talk and really wanted to join it, as I said at the beginning, we are recording, so I will be uploading that onto our YouTube channel and website soon, hopefully. But finally, thank you to everyone, and have a lovely evening or afternoon wherever you are in the world, and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.